Greetings, it is I, Desdemona, Countess Extraordinaire. Tonight, we will hear not one, but two wonderful creepypastas surrounding a cartoon that has come back from the dead, at least in reruns. In this first story, written by the one and only filmmaker of the future, you had better start stretching, as we are going to take some dance lessons at the one and only Argento Dance Academy. Let us begin. Maestro?
You can find some crazy stuff on the internet, but nothing was as crazy as the night I surfed me up some home movies. No, I'm not talking about the kind that people put up for laughs that actually look agonizingly painful, but that old cartoon from way back when that Brendon Small and Lauren Bouchard created. For those who don't know, Brendon Small is known for the Adult Swim cartoon Metalocalypse, and Lauren Bouchard is the creator of Bob's Burgers on Fox. But before either of these shows were even a twinkle in the eyes of these two, they were working on home movies. The show itself was about 8-year-old Brendon Small, sound familiar, and his two friends, Jason and Melissa, who would meet every day after school and put together some home movies that, more often than not, would reflect their seemingly miserable everyday lives. Unlike Charlie Brown, however, we can actually hear and see the adults, and much like the Rugrats, this show was just as much about the adults as it was about the kids that it centered around. Those adults were Brendon's blasé, yet also very supportive single mother Paula, and the drunk yet lovable soccer coach, Coach John McGurk, voiced by H. John Benjamin of Archer fame. This truly was a unique cartoon that will be missed, which brings us to our feature presentation. I was surfing the internet late one night, kind of a ritual for me, and decided to look up the aforementioned home movies. I had been working on a drawing and hoped some old-timey cartoons would be good white noise to complete the picture to. So when I found some episodes of this oldie but goodie of a cartoon, I knew it was going to be a fun night. As I browsed through the videos, I came across something very strange. It was an episode I'd never seen before. The episode was called The Haunting of Argento Dance Academy, which threw me off considering the fact that the series only had one Halloween episode, Coffins and Cradles. But in the end, I figured it was probably just a fan cartoon, but I decided to give it a shot anyway, considering I had once found a Daria fan cartoon that was done very well. The tune was revealed to be genuine, as it began with the typical opening with the TV and quirky theme music, and then immediately cut to the soccer field with Brendon talking to Coach McGurk. The former was discussing how he had made weekend plans to shoot a Blair-Witch-style film at the abandoned Argento Dance Academy downtown. McGurk then jokingly tells him he shouldn't go there because Madame Crowley might take him away. When Brendon inquires of this person, McGurk begins to tell him the tale of Wicked Madame Crowley. We then flash back to the 1930s when Argento was first established. Madame Crowley was the former headmistress of Argento and a devout pagan who would frequently conduct rituals at her workplace. She would even get the willing students and staff involved with her practices. This resulted in the disappearances of several cats in the neighborhood, as well as the occasional burning smell coming from the dance school. Then, one night, Madame Crowley's reign came to an end as she was ratted out by one of her students and arrested for the disappearances of the neighborhood cats. How did they know it was her? This was due to the alarming evidence of witness reports, 2 cats caged in a dressing room, and other horrible things that make me too spiritually nauseous to even write about. But as the cops took her away, She put a curse on the academy. This resulted in a series of horrible events, including the death of a janitor. The academy was then closed in 1959. Brendon dismisses this as BS, but Coach McGurk says for him to, say that again after calling Bloody Mary 50 times in the old dressing room. Brendon laughs this off sarcastically and says he'll remember that when the ghost of a million cats won't shut up. The scene changes to Brendon coming home and letting his mom know that he was going to be shooting that weekend. Paula then tells Brendon that he may need to reschedule as his little cousin Sarah was coming over. Brendon didn't like the sound of this, as Sarah had a history of ruining his and his friends' good times in the past, always changing the script and making it her own, and even being crazy enough to want her own movies done instead of the director's. The doorbell rings and Brendon makes a quick call to Melissa to let her know that trouble's arrived. Yes, it's Sarah. The screen fades to black, and the scene changes to the basement studio where Jason, Melissa, and the recently added Sarah are discussing movie plans with Brendon. Sarah looks obviously younger than the main three, probably about 6, and is voiced by Sarah Silverman. She's enthusiastic about the next project and suggests something scary as Halloween is coming up. Brendon tells her to wait in the living room as they were planning a surprise for her. Sarah is ecstatic and runs out of the basement. Brendon pulls Melissa and Jason aside and tells them that, oddly enough, the little spaz and I finally agree on something. He then tells them about his Blair-Witch type project as well as a plan to keep Sarah out of the way. The kids get excited at this news, but before we can hear the plan, the screen fades out and we cut to the dance academy. The place looks like it hasn't been touched since the day it closed. Sarah tries to grab Brendon out of fear, but he shoves her off, telling her that it's just a building and she's the one who wanted to do the scary film to begin with. The kids go inside and explore the ramshackle academy until they find one of the performance rooms. Sarah, being a kid, immediately starts dancing and trying to get her comrades' attention. Brendon then sarcastically tells Sarah to call Bloody Mary in front of the performance room mirror, and Melissa and Jason tell her to spin in a circle 100 times while shouting the aforementioned name. Jason even suggests that Sarah say that she stole Bloody Mary's baby. Since Sarah obviously doesn't understand sarcasm, she immediately starts to do just that as the main three exit the room, all the while hiding their obvious laughter. Jason then lags behind a bit, and when Brendon and Melissa call for him, he is revealed to be locking the performance room door with the aid of an old key ring. Later on, Brendon, Melissa, and Jason are going through their footage and deciding how it's to be edited. Brendon then finds the part where they left Sarah in the performance room and realizes something important. You know, Sarah's been awfully quiet since we got back, Brendon pointed out. Yeah, come to think of it, I haven't seen her since she tried to call Bloody Mary, Melissa chimed in. Yeah, we really got her there, Brendon chuckled. Then they started talking trash about her until they realized that they were probably jerks and needed to apologize. But first, they needed to find Sarah. They look everywhere, but can't find her. Jason then reveals that maybe Sarah couldn't get out as Jason had locked the door. I thought you wanted her out of the picture, so I took the old janitor's keys and locked the door, Jason confessed. Brendon and Melissa then freak out at this horrid realization and immediately recognize that they need to go back and rescue Sarah. Their plans are thrown off when Paula announces that dinner will be ready in 5 minutes. Brendon then quickly starts putting his gear together and tells his friends to distract his mom while he goes to get his cousin back. Clad in Indiana Jones-esque attire, Brendon goes out the window and runs into the sunset. In the next scene, Brendon has arrived at the dance academy and night has fallen. Seizing an opportunity, Brendon takes out his camera and begins his journey. As he searches through the academy, everything is much different from what it was that afternoon. Due to limited light sources, there were now more shadows, and some of the sounds couldn't be linked to anything ordinary. As he wandered through the dank hallways, Brendon swore he could hear music coming from various rooms. The songs would range from ragtime jazz to classical music, and even a few show tunes here and there. Sometimes Brendon would hear muffled conversations, but none that got him any closer to his cousin. Brendon began to get worried that he would never find his little cousin. And as he reached the top floor of the building, Brendon suddenly heard a hoarse voice shout from behind a door, "Where are you, Bloody Mary?" The voice screamed, "My friends need you. Please come out." Brendon then beamed as he realized that he had found his cousin and quickly ran toward the door. "Don't worry, Sarah, I'm coming," Brendon yelled as he went through the janitor's keys. "Don't come in," Sarah called back. "Why not?" I'm naked." "Why are you naked?" "I like it that way." "Tie a sweater around your waist." "You can't break my free spirit." "I'm coming in." "Oh, come on." Eventually, Brendon found the key, burst through the door, and flipped on the light, only to discover the performance room smelling like throw-up and the doorway having been painted with it. Then right in front of it all was a not-naked Sarah, looking like she'd been through a Freddy Krueger nightmare. "You'd think she'd come if you had something in common with her," Sarah said, scratching a huge red blotch on her face. "Why would that make a difference?" Brendon asked, removing his cousin's grating hand. "I thought if we had something in common, she'd want to be friends and come over," Sarah said, tearing up. Brendon then revealed that the whole Bloody Mary thing was a hoax to get rid of her, and he was terribly sorry. But Sarah still refused to go back. Brendon reminded her that Bloody Mary wasn't coming, but Sarah still insisted on staying. After much bickering, Brendon finally decided to ask his cousin why staying in a puke-filled room was any better than going back to a comfortable home where everybody loves you. "Because nobody loves me, Brendon," Sarah shouted. Brendon was shocked by this response. "Nobody thinks I can do anything. Not at home, not at school, not even you." "Yeah, I knew Bloody Mary was a joke, but I didn't want to believe it. I figured if I could at least do one thing right, you'd believe in me. Maybe even let me direct my own movies. But now I know that I'm better off dying in an old building." Sarah then began scratching at her wound, but Brendon knocked her hand away. "You're being ridiculous, Sarah," Brendon told her. "You're just saying that because you're afraid of getting in trouble," Sarah said. "No, Sarah," Brendon retorted. "I really do care about you. Would I come here in a fedora if I didn't? Look, you don't have to entertain people to get friends. Then they're just an audience." "But isn't that how you got your friends?" Sarah questioned. Brendon paused at this query and thought a minute. Was that really how Brendon became friends with Jason and Melissa? In the end, Brendon answered with, "My friends love me because I care about them. If you show interest in other people's lives instead of just trying to entertain them all the time, maybe they'd want to talk to you." "But my life is so boring," she said, frustrated. "No, it's not. No boring person would put himself through this. And since you cared so much about my needs, I now have more stuff for my movie." Sarah then cheered up and offered to try and call Bloody Mary again, since the time of day would make it even scarier. Brendon gave in, threw the girl a flashlight, and started rolling. Sarah then flipped on the light and began the ritual one final time. But as she was spinning about and ranting about a stolen baby, a horrible shadow began to creep up behind her. It looked like a person, and not just any person, but Madame Crowley from the flashback. Brendon caught this on camera and lunged toward his cousin. "What are you doing?" Sarah asked, confused. "Getting out of here," Brendon yelled in response, and he threw his little cousin over his shoulder and raced out of the room. As he continued to run, Sarah kept the camera focused on the creeper who kept chasing them and yelling, "Blasphemy! Blasphemy! You'll pay for your blasphemy! Turning sacred ground into a playhouse! Blasphemy!" Brendon kept running until he burst through the door and didn't stop until he ran in front of a car. The car came to a screeching halt to reveal Paula Small along with Jason and Melissa. "Are we dead?" Sarah asked Brendon. "No, but Brendon's going to be if he doesn't tell me what's going on," Paula said in a non-sarcastic tone. "Let's just say I screwed up and may have screwed up Sarah." Sarah then barfs over Brendon's shoulder. Later that night, Sarah comes into Brendon's room asking if she can sleep with him. Brendon obliges and lets her under the covers. "Brendon?" Sarah asked her cousin. "Yeah, Sarah?" he answers. "Who do you think that was that chased us?" "Sarah, not only do I not care, but I don't care to see that ever again." "Me neither." Maniacal laughter is then heard as the two cousins squeeze each other tightly. But it turns out to be just something Paula was watching on TV. After I finished the episode, I checked the info and comments on YouTube to see where this episode came from. Apparently, it was meant to be a Season 4 Halloween special that the network found too cheesy. Personally, I think it was just right.
Yes, it is amazing what you will find on the internet nowadays. Like Bloody Melissa, for example. Bloody Melissa is another Home Movies Lost Episode creepypasta written by Marielle K. Bergman. If you want to read this story yourself, you may go to Wattpad. But why waste any brain cells when you can just listen here?